It is my great interest to tell the importance of polygamy during slavery and in the slave trade. Now, the white man came to Africa. By the time he came, he was a little bit advanced, more than the natives. And so when he grew to the point that he wanted to enslave them, what he did was, he would side with one king and fight the other king. And after winning that one, he would turn to the one who he sided with and then defeat him. And he would take all the two of them into slavery. That was the art. That was the skill he used. But that time, so when the white man came, because he was intelligent more than the natives and had traveled, and any man who travels from his village to the other has a bigger mind because he lacks something before he made a step. So when he's going, he's ambitious more than the one in his room or in his shelf. So when they came, they had an ambition. An ambition could be trade, and later it turned to human trade. So what they did was, they would meet two kings, side with one king, let the king give him arms, give him support, and let that king fight with the other king. And they, because this king is sided with the white with arms, by all means, the other king will be defeated. When that is done, the white man will laugh and then turn against the one he sided, fought him, and win him at the same time. So all the two, he had fought only one battle, but won two people at a time. So they started capturing men. Slavery started only with men, no children, no women. So at a certain point, the native himself discovered the population of men was diminishing. So let's take it in a mathematical way that there were 10 women and there were 10 men on the continent. And then slavery started taking the men, and at the far end, they saw that there were only 3 men, but still remaining 10 women. So these 10 women were also still in their puberty rights and needed a man to care for them. So they accepted that the remaining 3 men should fertilize the other 7 women in addition with their 3 women and wives, so that the black race would never turn ephemeria, wouldn't end. That was why during slavery they made polygamy, the practice of polygamy, as an accepted culture of marriage. But let me tell you today, as I'm sitting right in front of you and looking to your dreadlock, if I don't know the meaning of dreadlock, I may call it dirty. But when I look at you, you let me know how my ancestors were and how they lived. And you let me tell you again, the meaning of dreadlock is not the meaning people see it today. But if the people who grow it today knew or would know how this dreadlock, the importance and the potentials behind this, they would respect it. Now, our ancestors, this was how they could communicate. They were communicating through this with God. And let me bring you back to the Bible. When Samson's dreadlock was cut through Delilah, Samson lost his strength, lost his wisdom, and lost his everything. So, when the pair of scissors came to cut this off to the same like I have now, we have lost our culture. We have lost our communication with our Creator. We have lost our strength. We have lost our wisdom. We have lost our history. We have lost our respect. Because this is how, and this was the only means how the ancestors, the natives, could communicate with God. And let me tell you the meaning of this, even in the scientific way. If you have a wireless set or a television set, without the outside antenna, you will never receive images on the screen. And the wireless also will never receive any information. It will only be there. So the antenna is the connection route of the brain The hair is the antenna of the brain, whereby in the olden days, if you look to the scientists and if you look to the prophets never cut their hairs so that they could communicate through this with God. So today, I'm telling you, when I look at anyone Rastafarian, I look to him as my ancestor. And I have deep respect and even the fear to touch it. It's only I begged you before I could touch this, because I know exactly the power that is in this. But because today we have cut all this and then we are using a Western culture, we see it and find it as dirty. But it was not like that. This is the power of our strength. This is the power behind the African religion, where and how they could communicate with God. They could communicate with God. The priests, the priestesses, all never had their hair cut. On the shrine, you meet them with dreadlocks. Until today, any child that is brought out from the shrine keeps dreadlock, even back home in Africa. It was the only sensitive way whereby our ancestors could know and read and hear through the air or wind from God and worship him. So it wasn't something that the dreadlock is just something they kept because they didn't have maybe a pair of scissors, but it has an edifice to their culture and religion. Until today, the dreadlock is seen at the deepest part of the African culture as something symbolic to a relationship with God. So the dreadlock, people who are keeping it today should respect it, should know that they are a symbolic history to the African race, to the black race, telling us how we also knew God. When you come to the book of Samuel, Samuel was dedicated to God. His hair was not cut. There's so many of the prophets, like Aaron, they never cut their hair. And you can see that even they said when the dew fell into the hair of Aaron, fell into his beard and fell onto his body, this is a communication, a set of communication. And all those prophets, Abraham and others, kept their hair as it is today. But let me tell you, if someone would keep his hair for the next 20 years, showers it, it will turn dreadlock. And turning dreadlock means you have come back to the origin of man. So communication and other things that it gave us will tell us that the dreadlock is a symbolic thing that we need to respect. And polygamy should be respected at that time. If there were no polygamy, if they didn't practice polygamy, the black race might have ended. And because when they come, they will only take the young, able men who could mate and reproduce. So when these men are gone or were gone, who were there? Only the old men and children. But they made a trick. The white man was coming every 10 years. The biggest raid which came to Africa was 1630 AD. That was the time the highest population, over 4 million people, were carried in a year. 4 million able men were carried over the continent in a year. But polygamy came in. They went to pick it so that they could restore the continuation of the black race. They would come 10 years, and because the system was not affecting women and children and old people, when they raid a village or raid a kingdom, they would never come to that kingdom till it's in between 10 and 15 years. So the young people, the young boys they left, who were 10 years and 12, by the time they come in the next 10 years, will be around 22 and 27, which will be capable. Then they will fall into their prerequisites, and then we'll raid them and bring them to West Indies to serve on their plantations. So without polygamy, the practice my race, your race, might have been terminated abruptly. And so today, you and I are surviving because our ancestors just came out with polygamy, the practice, so that you and I are today on this earth, so that we can still see the black race, as we might have been terminated. So the white man saw this, and at a certain time of the day, he saw that no, he was taking all the men, and most men went into West Indies, and so many men was on the African continent. So he started going in with women, so that to feed them there. And so he was at 10 years interval having so many women in West Indies, producing so many slave children for him. And then at 1630, when he raided, he came at 1640, he came at 1645, and then started raiding the other men and women left on the continent. So without the practice of polygamy, I'm swearing to all my listeners, if you are a black man, you wouldn't have been standing here today. So polygamy is an accepted culture and practice of the black race. Thank you. I'm your Frempong Manson, and I thank you for listening to knowledge. Knowledge is the only thing that man can acquire so that he can understand his past. Without knowledge, whatever we do will be to vain. Knowledge is power. Listen to knowledge. Thank you.